Hi, everybody. It's Craig and Arun back with your college hoops hump day Wednesday. We've got 10 great games for you here. We got, I think, the three ranked games for today, plus 7 other really nice ones that we like. Don't forget, if you want to find out what we like the most, the nicest, as they say, go over here. 2-for-1 passes right here, docsports.com/Craig Arun. You get a week pass for $99 for the college hoops. We've both been red hot, icy. I think it's number 1 on the website. I think I'm 3rd or 4th. Either way, we both had nice seasons so far. So get in on it. Get that college hoops. We also have the NBA at this same link as well. So you can buy them both, one or the other, whatever you like. But you get $99. You get us both for a week at this link. Okay, let's go college hoops. We start us off Baylor at my Cincinnati Bearcats, 6:30. Cincinnati's favored by 4, total of 148. I didn't think the Bearcats would be favored by this much, being a 500 team, even though they did beat Iowa State. I think one of the last games at home here. What do you like?
Well, I just looked at the score. That Miami Ohio game. I took a quick peek at that. They're up by 2 with it just ended. They won against UMass. That's exciting. I told you
down most of they were only up for 16 seconds in the first half. So
I told you UMass was going to cover it. And Vanderbilt, of course, is beating the snot out of Kentucky, which we also called on our video, which is why you should be watching our video every single chance you get. All right, man. Baylor 4-point dog against Cincinnati, 11-18, hooking up against a 10-10 team. Couple things here. Cincinnati won 69-67 last year. So what does that mean for Baylor coming in? Does Baylor get their little bit of revenge, or does they get motivated here? You have an opportunity here where, you keep in mind that Baylor comes in having lost 3 in a row. They certainly could use this game. They're only a 4-point dog. The public doesn't believe in Baylor at all. The public doesn't believe in Cincinnati at all. They believe Baylor will come through. 11-8 team here by Scott Drew. They've lost 3 in a row coming into TCU, Texas Tech, and Kansas, 3 in a row. That's a little tough. This team is still a pretty young team, losing by 7 to TCU, so bear that in mind. Baylor shot 67% from the field last game. So what happens here? Look, Cincinnati comes into this contest having lost Arizona State. They play really good defense, and they've come out on back-to-back losses. They're going to play phenomenal defense today. Baylor comes into this contest giving up 97 points and 92 points in their last 2 contests. Not a great defensive team. This total sits at 148. I think what's impressive to me, you have to look at the quality of wins. Baylor did beat Oklahoma State and San Diego State and Creighton and Washington. Those are 4 top 100 teams. Cincinnati beat Iowa State at home by 9, okay? And Cincinnati did beat Dayton as well. They were competitive against Houston, who's a top 10 team, and lost by 7 points. And they're coming off back-to-back, 2 of the worst losses they've had all year long. I think Cincinnati gets it done, man. I'm going to back Cincinnati minus the 4 here. All right, Craig, in your next contest here, let's talk about Tennessee as they hook up against Georgia. Tennessee, 2.5-point dog against Georgia. Tennessee is not ranked. And neither is Georgia, from what I can tell. I could be wrong, but I don't think they are. Nope. 13-6, 16 and 4 teams here hooking up here. Tennessee won 74-56 last year. They've won the last 5 in a row in this rivalry. Tennessee off beating my Alabama 79-73 on the road. That's going to make the fan base really tick. Georgia losing by 20 to Texas on the road after beating Missouri on the road. Who do you like?
Yeah, I like Tennessee here, plus 2.5. I think Tennessee. They lost. I mean, if they didn't lose by Kentucky, Kentucky's a rivalry game, by the way, at Tennessee by 2. Kentucky's starting to play really good basketball, by the way. I think this is like the SEC is just loaded. So you cannot get down on a team for just losing. I mean, look at Georgia lost by 20 at Texas. Does that mean they're bad? No. It just means these are really good teams. I think it's going to be a really close game. Tennessee's owned them, like you said, 5 in a row. I think Tennessee does it again here. I think Tennessee matches up really well, just like they did against Bama. Very similar, I think, how they match up here. Give me Tennessee plus 2.5. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on all the great content we have here at Doc Sports. Next game, Davidson at George Mason here. George Mason's favored by 8.5, total 135.5. And it's a pretty good George Mason team on the year. I think they've only lost, 2 games, 18-2. Been really good, and a loaded A10. They're second in the A10. What do you like here?
I was a little surprised that George Mason came in as an 8.5-point dog, just because, George Mason's also won this game the last 4 times. They haven't met this year, but Davidson has a lot of motivation coming in. But, this team lost to VCU 75-69 last time out. They're top 115 defense. They're a pretty senior-laden team. George Mason, of course, losing to Rhode Island is going to really tick them off, but they're dominated at home. Right, they beat VCU by 6 at home. They beat Rhode Island by 11. Now they're coming off a loss to Rhode Island. Not entirely their fault, considering that they'd beaten Rhode Island by 11 at home. Then they went on the road to lose to them. But George Mason, they might be 18-2, but their quality of wins lacks, Craig. They beat George Washington, they beat VCU, they beat Florida Atlantic. They've only beaten 3 teams in the top 100. Davidson, of course, rolls in. They beat George Washington, and that's about it. So, I understand that the quality of wins lacks for George Mason, but they do have more wins. I was surprised that this total came in at 135.5. I'm going to take the under here. I think what makes sense here is that Davidson's going to come in. Davidson plays pretty good defense, top 115. George Mason's even a better defense, top 100. George Mason dominates on defense after a loss. They lost to Bot Tech early this year, and then they held Old Dominion to 61 points. I'm going to take the under 135 between these two teams. All right, Craig, moving on to Mississippi State here. Mississippi State rolls in here. They are facing LSU. They come in as an 8-point dog. Mississippi State is 10-10. LSU is 13-7. Mississippi State won 91-62 back on last year. They won this game the last 5 times. Mississippi State comes off an ugly loss to Vanderbilt by 32 points. And then they, of course, lost to A&M by 20 points prior to that. Do you think they're motivated enough to get it done here? They are. They've lost 5 straight covers. LSU, by the way, played tough against Arkansas, lost by 4. They lost to Florida by 18. They're back home now where they beat Missouri recently. Who do you like?
These two teams are pretty similar, in my opinion. I want to take full responsibility for Mississippi State's losing streak. I got on them against Kentucky that game, and they were up the first half by 12 or 13 points. And people were messaging me, great pick. And then it was like the kibosh happened, and they got killed from then on out. And never was close since then. I'm going to be honest, though. I just think they've played. They haven't shot the ball very well, and they're not the greatest shooting team. So that kind of worries me here. But it's a lot of points. LSU's not that. They were really good early in the year with their record, but they just hadn't played anybody. So it was like a paper tiger, as they say. And that's funny because they are the Tigers. So give me Mississippi State plus the points. Maybe I'll end the kibosh that I put on them. And since I haven't played them since then, I want to take Mississippi State. I just don't think LSU should be favored by many teams by 8 points. Next game, USC at Iowa. The Big Ten is loaded this year. I mean, Iowa's 14-5, not ranked because they've got a couple tough losses. I think Iowa should be ranked. I think they're a pretty good team. Iowa's favored by 9.5 total, 141 here. First year with the McCullough, right? The coach that transferred or came over from Drake and brought the Sturridge kid that was the player of the year last year. I think these two are a great combination. Fun to watch. What do you like in this matchup?
It's going to be a great game. And remember, we were on USC in their most recent game, right? We talked about it. Look, USC beat this team by 10 last time. USC, of course, coming off that win against Wisconsin. We called it right here. I said, I like Wisconsin plus the 7.5. We're not scared. And they got it done. They were losing Northwestern. They came back and they beat Wisconsin on the road. Iowa rolls in, beating Rutgers and Indiana, but they didn't play well against Rutgers at all. They won by 6 points. By the way, I saw a crazy stat that Rutgers, as a program, I read an article today, they lost close to $500 million in the last 10 or 13 years since joining the Big Ten. That's crazy. So there's so much in debt right now. Just a tidbit there. But getting back to this game, look, man, I like the fact that Iowa didn't play well against Rutgers their last game, winning only by 6 points. That was a game where they were kind of down late in around the fourth quarter, and they ended up winning by 6 points against a team that they should have frankly dominated. What has to make the Iowa coach upset here is the fact they were out free throwed 24-16, which means there's a lack of aggression. I think Ben McCollum will get after his guys. They were just coming off that big win against Indiana, and they just had a huge letdown. And then USC, of course, comes in, a monumental win over Wisconsin on the road. So how do they respond? I don't know. I think they could lay an egg. They lost 80-51 against Michigan State and 96-66 against Michigan. I could totally see Eric Musselman's team laying an egg after that big Wisconsin win. Let me lay it here, man. Let me lay it on Iowa minus the 9.5. So Texas, Auburn. All right, so Texas here hooking up against Auburn. Texas 6.5-point dog. Auburn all of a sudden showing some life here, total of 156. Auburn beat them 87-82 last year, but last year is not this year. New coach, a lot of new things this year. Texas, huge win against Georgia, 87-67 at home. That was a big win because they were coming off back-to-back losses to Kentucky and A&M. Auburn, of course, comes off 3 straight wins. I cannot stress enough how big these wins are. Beating South Carolina, Ole Miss on the road, and Florida on the road, and they beat Arkansas at home. They've shown a lot of heart lately. Give them credit after a slow start. Auburn minus the 6.5. What do you like?
The key to both of these teams, they've both been really, really good. Like a lot of people have kind of written these teams off to start the SEC. Then all of a sudden they've both played really, really good, been great for us bettors. They've been good because they've both been playing good defense. Look at all the under plays. I think Auburn, 4 in a row, they've gone under. I believe off the top of my head, I believe Texas, 3 of their last 4. I'm taking the under in this matchup. 156. I think both teams will be lucky to get 72-73. I think you also play Texas as the underdog here. I think it's a big letdown spot after beating Florida on the road for Auburn, but for sure the stronger play is on the total under. Next game, Butler, St. John's. St. John's, big favorite, minus 12.5. Total 162.5. I know all about this Butler team. This is where my stepson goes. I'm telling you, this Butler team is good. I don't know if they're good enough to beat this team, but they have talent on this. Some young talent, but some talent here. What do you like?
But Butler comes in here having won 3 in a row. They're showing life. Thad Matta is showing life on this team. But it's his 4th year, but it takes a while because look what Hoiberg did over at Nebraska. Maybe sometimes it just takes a minute, you know. This team beat Seton Hall, DePaul, and Marquette. 3 nice wins here. They're coming against St. John's here, a team they lost to by 14 points. The question is, can they do well here on the road? But the odds makers certainly don't think so. They're putting them as a pretty decent-sized dog here coming in. But, you know, St. John's comes into this game having won 6 straight. That's the reason why. They beat Xavier on the road. They beat Seton Hall, Villanova, Marquette, and company. I got to tell you something, though. I like the fact that Butler, Thad Matta is a good coach, right? He's not a dumb coach. He's been around the block many times. I like the fact that this team beat Seton Hall their last game. This team beat Virginia at one point. I think I'm going to lay it here, but I will tell you this, that the last time they played St. John, I went to 154 points. This one's slated at 162.5, which sounds crazy, I know. I think this game goes over. I think Butler comes in this game, and they're going to score a decent amount of points. I think they're going to put up a ton of shots. I think St. John's is not going to be like the 84-70 game at all. And I can see this as a high-paced game. Remember that St. John's Marquette game went over as well. It went to 160. Give me the over between Butler and St. John's. Houston rolls in here facing TCU. Houston's ranked 10th in the country, minus 8.5 point chalk. A little battle on Texas here. Houston coming in off a 65-46 win over this team last year. TCU has the revenge. Houston losing 86-90 against Texas Tech as a minus 1.5 point favorite. You knew something was up when they were only a minus 1.5 point favorite after having won 9 straight plus games. TCU, of course, rolls into this game, beating Baylor on the road 97-90, showing some life here. Also beating Oklahoma State recently. TCU coming in as an 8.5 point home dog. Who do you like?
I had TCU as a best bet this weekend. A nice, easy winner outright. This is not that Houston team of last year where they just grind only. They have scoring and scoring and scoring. Now, can they grind you? Yes. But I think this is an absolute gift of a total at 137.5. I mean, Houston has scored 86 in the loss, 103, 77, 77. Those are the last 4 games. I think they're going to get us in the mid-70s. And TCU, at times, I mean, they scored 97 at Baylor last time out. They can score in the mid-70s as well. I think this is going to end up in the 150s. I'm going to take the over 137 in this Houston-TCU game. Probably would lean as TCU as a small underdog or as an underdog, but I think the much stronger play is on the total here. But if you got me to pick one, it would be the underdog there. Now, next game, 2 games left, Stanford, Miami. Miami's favored by 9, total 146. I did not see this Miami resurgence coming this fast this year. What do you like here?
Yeah, I would say this is a resurgence for sure. But then again, you know, there's a lot of expectations of Miami. Look what the football team did. Sometimes the football team doing well puts the pressure on the basketball team. It's funny how that happens. Stanford coming as a 9-point dog. Miami, of course, 16-4 now. You know, Stanford beat the snot out of this team 88-51 last year. So Miami, you know, some of those guys could remember that. But then again, with the NIL, this could be an entirely new team that comes into this game. Stanford, of course, coached by Kyle Smith, and he's turned that program around. They were 21-4. He came over from Washington State, and he quickly turned that team around, right? They were 14-18 with Jared Haas. Smith comes in, makes them 21-14. Now they're 14-6. They're coming off back-to-back losses to Duke and California, which is certainly not ideal. But this team did beat St. Louis. They've had some big wins, including Louisville earlier this year. Still a pretty young team. Miami rolls in, beating Syracuse on the road 85-76. Jay Lucas has done a great job with this team. And it's a team that was 7-24. It's a sleeping giant, and he awoke them. They lost to Florida State last time at home, 65-63, and I think that made the faithful pretty upset. Florida State's not a good team this year. They're 8-12. Look, this game can go either way, but I like Miami. I understand that Stanford's coming off back-to-back losses, but I think this bad loss to Stanford last time. And Stanford, of course, has a target on it because a lot of teams know they're coming from out west and they get ready for them. And the fact that Miami lost at home last time out, I think that makes a difference. I'm going to bite here. I'm going to take Miami minus the 9. All right, Craig, you're going to finish us off here in this Florida contest as they hook up against the defending champs. They have a little get-together with South Carolina on the road here on the East Coast. Florida is 14-6. They're still ranked 19th in the country. South Carolina is 11-9 coming in. South Carolina beat them 88-67 last year. Florida lost to Auburn 67-76 as a home favorite, 11.5. That's going to irritate the heck out of them. They had won 5 in a row before that, including beating Vanderbilt on the road. South Carolina comes in losing to A&M 69-92, getting routed. Both these teams off of losses. Florida comes in as 10.5-point chalk. Who do you like?
SEC as a 10.5-point chalk. I mean, you can pretty much on the road, like you can almost take any team. There's really just no dregs in the SEC anymore. I mean, every team has shown and had upsets this year. I think you take South Carolina plus the points. Florida, yes, they got beat by Auburn. That Auburn team's good. So, but I'm telling you, it's any given day in the SEC. It's like any given Sunday, as what was that, Al Pacino, right? In Any Given Sunday. It's like, like you can just get beat by anybody. South Carolina is an absolute physical nightmare. Frank Martin might not be there, but it's like a very similar team that they have at South Carolina where they just take it behind the woodshed. They're not the greatest talented team, but they make it ugly, kind of draw you into that type of game. If they do that, I think they can cover this game. Not going to be a huge play for me, but I think it would take South Carolina plus the points. Now, don't forget, you want to know what our top play is? That's the most common thing we have in the comments every day. Of course, we reserve those for our paying customers. You can become one. Instead of paying $30 per top play like most guys do, you can get us both for 7 days for just $99. So college basketball, you get us both instead of $99 each right here at DocSports.com/Craig Arun. Of course, at that same link, you can get the NBA as well. So you can buy NBA, college basketball, both, whatever you like, but you got to get in at this link right here. All right, guys, good luck. See you again tomorrow.